All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Nikhil Varshne. I'm going to talk about one of the most, what people call, not me, the unsexy product management. What you have seen so far for the last 1.5 days is the sexy part of product management, where you have users, you have empathy, you're building products, you're scaling, you're retaining your customers. What happens after that? Like, how do you really build platforms? That's the unsexy part. Like, before I begin, I just want to do a quick check to the audience. How many of you know that API strategy, database management is also part of product management? And have you worked on it? Awesome. Oh, surprised. Cool. That's good to know that there are people in the audience that, okay, we'll connect to this. And I'm also grateful that Rakesh went before me, because he kind of said the segue where, chips are kind of the superheroes that hide behind your phones but still let you operate it. And same goes with the platforms. They hide behind the applications that you use on the front end but still let you expand the organization into multiple geos, multiple user bases. And that's what we're going to talk about today. All right. About me. So I am currently working as a senior product manager at Wayfair. As I said, I build platform products. My team is also responsible currently to move from a monolithic architecture to more of a microservices world, which help us expand into multiple geos, which is currently stopping our progress. Before that, I was working as a product manager for Athena Health, where I had a sexy part of the product management, the UI product. And I was responsible for building scheduling softwares, which help providers balance out the demand throughout the day. I also run a blog called Products and Businesses. In my free time, I write about product strategy, technology, economics. And as you already know, I'm a photographer, amateur photographer, and an amateur tennis player. You can definitely see me playing US Open in 2050. So what's the agenda for today? I've tried to divide this presentation into 3 parts. First, I wanted to introduce what platforms are, why do they matter to us. Then second, defining platform product management, what it actually is. And then finally, taking the pivot to you are a product manager in platform, how do you go and build successful products? So let's get started. What are platforms? Before I begin, I want you to imagine the malls, the concept of a mall, the physical retail stores that we used to have. And then the concept of a mall was you had a physical space where you had the sellers, the shopkeepers, and the customers who would go there and buy the product. That kind of was a platform, right? It enabled the shopkeepers to connect with multiple customers coming in, and multiple customers had the option of buying from different shops. If you add software to mall, it becomes an e-commerce platform, and that is a platform. But what does it do? For customers, it is a shared experience. You have multiple shopkeepers which you can shop from. For shopkeepers, it's a shared operation where you have a platform that's giving you the opportunity to connect with all the customers that exist in that marketplace. And for the platform owner, it's a shared data. That's where all the value is, right? I mean, Amazons of the world, and Wayfairs for us, we are collecting data. We are knowing what sellers are selling at what time of the year and what customers are buying. And that data is useful. And that's the shared value of a platform. Now, if I had to put this into, oops, didn't go. All right. If I had to put this into a definition, what it would look like is platforms enable web of multiple channels to connect and perform core activities. There are 3 important terms over here. Multiple channels, which could be multiple products on your UI side, multiple teams on your UI side, or within the organization, that need to be connected to talk to each other because they are building their individual products, but somehow that data need to be shared across the organization. And that there is a core activity that your platform supports. One example that I have over here is from a logistics side, where you are moving a product from supplier to the customer. That's the core activity. But then there are 15 teams that are involved in the management of that box. You have to print a label. You have to scan the box as it moves through the journey. and then you have to optimize the routes, and then you have to show on the storefront to the customer where that package is in the journey, so that the customer is aware that my package is coming on an XYZ date. And on top of that, you want to run all your analytics, like, okay, how do I optimize my routes further? How do I tell my suppliers when to ship? What time is the best for them? So how do you do all of that? That's basically connecting these multiple channels to perform a core activity, which is moving the box. Since we have talked a little bit about the platforms, let's talk a little bit about what are the different kinds of platform. I'll not spend too much time on it. It's available on Google. I just borrowed this slide. It's not mine. There are two kinds of platforms, transaction platforms and innovation platforms. But the reason it's important to understand about this is to know that what kind of a platform you're building and what kind of a platform is really important for your organization. The transaction platforms, in simple terms, help you transact, right? Online marketplaces. They make money by transaction fees or advertisements, and they become more valuable because of the network effect. And I'm going to talk a little bit about network effect in one of the future slides. Innovation platforms, think of it more like a gaming platform or an operating system or an Android or an Apple store, which allows you to allow other developers to build on top of it, and that increases the value of that platform. And they basically make money by selling or renting their products. Then there are hybrid companies like Apple, which have transaction platforms like Apple Pay, but at the same time they have an Apple Store, which is also an innovation platform that allows them to build. So that's like a segue between the two, and then that kind of helps me understand which side of the world that I am on and how do I build my platform. Why do platforms really matter? Why is every company, after they have grown to a certain scale, want to build a platform? What value does it give to them? So I'll just read the statement and then kind of distribute my segues from that statement. Platform companies externalize product. They do not own assets that generate revenue, instead orchestrate a network of external customers and producers. Externalize product is an important word because you are no longer keeping your secrets to yourself. You are basically externalizing your products to your producers, to your consumers, and allowing them to come and orchestrate their businesses on your platform. So it's no longer internal. It has been made public, and anyone can build their businesses on top of it. They do not own assets. What do they mean? What does this mean? It means that you're no longer in the shopkeeper business, so you don't own the products, so you don't own the asset, but still generate revenue from it because you're helping the transaction to take place on your platform. So you're orchestrating the entire transaction on your platform without owning the asset by externalizing your product to allow your customers to use it. What does this lead to is, number one, accelerated growth and extended value. So let's dive a little bit deep into these two topics and understand what does accelerated growth means. I'll start with the image on the right-hand side. When, as a logistics company, you're a small company, you have one customer, few suppliers, you try to move those boxes, and you don't care about what the price of the logistics would be. You just keep moving those boxes. But as you grow, you cannot no longer be you cannot afford to do such things in your business. You need to optimize your business. You need to start thinking about how do I minimize my costs. So you start adding more elements into your network. You start adding more suppliers. You start adding more customers, and you start optimizing your routes. And that's the value of a network effect. As soon as in the first image at the top, because of the high costs in the network, customers end up paying more money for the product because you start charging that money in your products. But as you start adding more elements, the cost of operations goes down, and that cost reflects in your price of the product, and that can further increase the network effect by calling more and more customers onto your platform. The second thing is the extended value, and I took this from an article in Wired, which I read last year, and this kind of stuck with me. What does extended value mean? And I'll explain this with one example. As a small company, you have problems, and you try to build stuff to solve that problem. As problems keep coming, you keep building stuff, and you keep solving those problems. But there's a point in the journey of a company where it's no longer safe to build more stuff because you cannot manage it. So you start to optimize your existing solutions to solve the new problems. But then what happens after the optimization has also been reached to a certain level? Then comes the concept of a platform. You start to redefine the problem space altogether. And that, I think, is a good example. Twitter is a good example of it. When we talk about news industry, the stuff was Wall Street and New York Times used to create the news, and we used to consume it. Then came Google. It used to, put it on a web page, all the news that we want to search. So you had the optimization engine built. And then came Twitter. It redefined the problem. It said, Wall Street Journal, you are no longer the producer. You can also be a consumer of news. Someone else, like an individual who used to consume the news, can produce a news, and then Wall Street can consume it. So that kind of changed the game. Same thing happens as you grow. You start to redefine your problems. We've talked a little bit about the platforms. Why do they matter? So let's define platform product management. As I said, you have multiple products, and you have multiple teams looking for data, looking for connections within the organization. So as a platform product management, you are building your API strategies, how to collect data, how to integrate different products, your internal data transfer strategies through Kafkas, or data management strategies around ODSs, GraphQLs. How do you basically store the data so that you're not building the future monolith? How are you future-proofing your platform? So all of this goes into platform product management. Some of the key takeaways for platform product managers are supporting vision and strategy that is kind of standard across platform, across all product management principles. Managing different kinds of stakeholders. I'm going to spend some time on this in the future slides. Building concise long-term product roadmaps. This is really important because when you are on the UI side, you are basically reacting to the customers. You want to change fast, you want to pivot fast so that you can meet your customers' demand. But when you're on the platform side, you have a fixed strategy. You're going with a long-term strategy. You're trying to build a product that will withstand 6 to 12 months or at least 1.5 years down the road. So building a long-term effective product management roadmaps, influencing build versus buy decisions, making trade-off decisions such as API strategy, monolith versus microservices, future-proofing your platform. Project management is a plus. I know a lot of product managers do not like to hear the word project management, but it is kind of effective if you know project management skills and certain tools around project management. Communication with leadership. This is really, really important. As we have seen in the last 1.5 days, leaders concerned about how are you getting my users? Where is my money coming from? Am I going to get the features as promised? But at the back end, they don't understand the real technical nitty-gritties about the platforms, how you're building it. So, and you work with engineers all day. So they give you all technical jargon that this is the problem that you have. Somehow you have to synthesize all of that in a language that your leader will understand and will make sure that you get the right resources, what you need to be able to support other use cases within the organization. So that's really important, communication. So now we have reached a stage where you have platforms, you have defined platform product management. Now you are a product manager. How do you go about building successful products? So I have listed out 3 key things from my experience. This is all my experience. There is very limited material online on platform product management as such. So if you feel there is an opportunity for me to correct myself and something that I present you do not agree, please holler, shout out, and correct me as well. 3 things are building strategic platform vision, having a balanced approach on prioritization, and stakeholder management. There is a 4th element as well, which I have explicitly missed from this presentation, which is measuring success, because that kind of varies a lot on the organization and the kind of platform that you're trying to build. I can give you my inputs on what we are trying to measure in the platform that we are building, but that really depends on the organization. So that's one of the reasons I skipped it from this presentation. So let's dive into these in detail. Building strategic platform vision. On the right-hand side, I have the mission and the vision that is for my platform that I'm currently building within Wayfair. provide actionable data to carriers and shippers by acting as an interface and bringing visibility into the shipment process. And the vision is we want to build data as a service platform or a product with a multi-tenant platform which enables multiple users to kind of interact with their own instances, perform data integrations, management, storage, and tracking. Our goal is to bring the cost down for Wayfair and increase the ship speed. The reason I wanted to present my mission and vision over here is to kind of provide an input as to how I really came about this mission and vision and why it really matters for a platform. A lot of people say that at the back end, you're basically building an API, you're basically upgrading your databases. But if you do that without a vision, without a mission as to what your platform really stands for, you will basically be lost with multiple requests coming from multiple stakeholders, and you won't understand the meaning of prioritization. This mission and vision helps us within my team understand what we are trying to build, where to say no, and where to say yes. What are the requests I want to build on my platform, and what are the requests I want to pass along to my stakeholders and say, hey, this does not align with my mission, and it should be something that could be prioritized by your team. So this is one of the most important reasons, whereas a platform product, if you do not have a mission and a vision, you might get lost in the nitty-gritties of small requests that come and deprioritize your bigger picture. But how did I come up with this mission and vision statement? I think we have heard in the past 1.5 days, company strategy and vision is really important. Even on the front-end product or any kind of product, if you cannot align yourself with the company's mission and strategy, you're basically moving in a wrong direction. And if you're moving in the wrong direction, then you're basically not supporting the organization and the goals that they have. So really understanding what your corporate vision and strategy is and aligning with it on the back end is really important. Understanding the what of the problem that you're trying to solve. I'll actually take something from one of the yesterday's presentation around the hypothesis, and I think it goes really well with it. And I think I should have written it in that fashion itself. The what actually is the later part of it, but building an hypothesis of what you think you will solve as a problem is really important. You may think that is a problem that you're trying to solve, but at the end, your hypothesis may fail. And that's when you realize that the what was wrong, and your hypothesis is really important. So I always go with 4 or 5 hypotheses that we have. Okay, if we are going to implement 5 features, those 5 features have their own hypothesis, and those 5 hypotheses allow us to track success of our build. But that's something that, again, is individual to all the product managers individually who work on the back-end side, what your hypothesis will be, what goal you are trying to support within your organization. Identifying your direct and indirect customers. I think this is really important on the back-end side. Sometimes, as product managers, we get swayed away with a lot of hype around what your users think. Are you connected with your users? But we are not connected with our users. We support our users indirectly. My users are my indirect partners within the Wayfair as an organization. I do not directly interface with Wayfair's end customers on a daily basis. So understanding your direct and indirect customers really impact your mission and the vision statement. Because if I think about my Wayfair end customer, I may not build data as a service platform. I may build something else. But I'm working with my internal customers who have their needs, and they serve the end customers, and that's why data as a platform makes sense for our organization, for us as a team. Prioritization, balanced approach on the prioritization. Again, this is very, very niche to different product managers and what you do and how your organization really operates. That's why I've written my prioritization philosophy, and it's not a generic philosophy. Concise and long-term roadmaps. Concise is really important over here, and long-term is really important over here. What we really do, or I really do within the organization, is I go by 5-quarter roadmap because, as I said, backend is a strategy-driven product. It's not going to change every day. You need to have a strategy. If we are building data as a service platform, I need to have my components nailed down as to what my data strategy will look like 1.5 years from now and who it's going to support. So it has to be concise. It's not nailed down to the last word that it will not change over the next quarter or the quarter after that. It's just that it's long term. It gives everyone a perspective of what we are trying to build and how we will integrate with our stakeholders. It also brings in openness with our stakeholders, where we are not communicating at the very last minute. We are working with them along the process for the next 5 quarters. They know what we're going to build. They know what we're going to support. And that's where we can identify the interdependencies with multiple teams and work with them. Backend does not change every day. I think I said that, and I think this is really important, because if it's not changing every day, you definitely need to have a long-term strategy as to how you want to support it. Identify your stakeholders and their upcoming needs. I think the next point over there is stakeholder management, but I'm just going to talk a little bit about it. Your stakeholders, understanding the kind of stakeholders that you have within platform product management is really important. There are consumers that depend on you for building their platforms or their products. There are consumers on which you depend to build your platforms. And understanding both sides or both parties is really important. Because if you don't understand your downstream consumers, their needs, when do they need it, what's the priority for them, then you're basically not aligned. And then if you don't know when your upstream teams can support you, then you're basically falling behind. So having the understanding of both upstream and downstream dependencies and basically incline with them on their upcoming demands and prospects, it's really important as a back-end product manager. I'm going to zoom into this image that we have over here and kind of talk a little bit about it. And this is, again, based on what we see in our roadmap, based on what our platform basically stands for. The platform build is basically from the mission and the vision that we have. I usually allocate 35 to 40% of my quarterly capacity on building the platform vision, which is data as a service. This I do in partnership with my engineering manager and the lead architects, because they are the ones that are designing the platform. They're future-proofing it. The 20% of my quarterly capacity comes from my downstream consumers as to what do they need in the quarter and how can I support them build better products. Some of my downstream consumers directly interact with Wayfair's end consumers. They have certain needs. They want to tell their customers if the product is damaged on the way and should be canceled. I need to prioritize that because that has a very high priority value for our customers. We think about our customers every day. And the last segment is the top-down priorities. Every organization, again, depending on the kind of the organization, have their top-down priorities. They have top-down projects that impact multiple teams, and multiple initiatives are started top-down. And there is a capacity that kind of takes away that work. So 40 to 45% of my quarterly capacity goes on building those top-down initiatives. But the top-down initiatives or even the customer requests that we fulfill has to align with the vision and the mission of the platform that we are building. If it does not align, there has to be a conversation that usually takes place between the stakeholders to make sure that we are aligned and solving the right problem with those. Over here, epics is something that I've written. It's like a very generic term, but epics are something that I do personally. I write the high-level epics so that my engineering team knows what they're solving, but they go write the technical stories because I should not be jumping in and writing their technical stories for them. Then how does the prioritization happen within these buckets itself? Platform build is basically influenced by the long-term roadmap, long-term work that we are doing, and reducing the tech debt or future-proofing our platform. The prioritization of the request usually happens based on the dollar impact that we'll have, the end customer impact that we will have, either through the NPS or the happiness index or multiple things that those teams prioritize based on. The top-down priorities usually are driven by the orgs, and the value that they deliver to the organization has to be provided by your ops partners, your stakeholders, as to what value you're bringing by doing that project. So that's how we prioritize those kind of requests. Stakeholder management. I know someone said yesterday, I kind of not fully agree with that statement, and I forgot who said that, but I think the statement was made like, you should put the onus on the others if you're not in agreement with something, and then they will kind of agree or disagree, but the onus will be on them. I think that kind of breaks the relationship that you're trying to build with your stakeholders. I always try to work hand in hand, and I think if the parties are not in agreement, it makes real sense to have a collaborative call and bring them on the same page. At the end of the day, we are solving the problem for Wayfair. We contribute to the same bottom line. If stakeholders are not aligned, it is the responsibility, I believe, of a product manager to make sure that the stakeholders are aligned. It's not good to pinpoint and put the responsibility on the other and say that, okay, if you don't do this, we're going to lose $100 million. Yes, we're going to lose $100 million, but let's align as to why it makes sense to not lose those $100 million together. So making sure that you align with your stakeholders and you work with them very closely is really important. As platform product managers, I think there are 4 major kind of stakeholders you usually work with. The internal customers, which is basically that you support as your downstream teams, which need data from you. They may have multiple use cases on different data needs that they have to support them. The downstream stakeholders, which is mostly they're building their products, but they need support from you to build their products. They cannot move ahead with their product development because they're stuck, and you are the cause of they're stuck. The upstream stakeholders, which basically means that you cannot move ahead because the upstream team has not done their work, and you need to align with them. And then the 4th and the most important one is the business stakeholder. That could be your ops partner, that could be your leader, that could be someone who's making the decision or driving the projects. So these are the 4 major kind of stakeholders that I believe a platform product manager usually works with. Okay, just to summarize, these are some of the main takeaways I guess I could collect from all the from the previous slides. Understanding the bigger picture, which is what your corporate strategy is, why are you doing what you're doing, building the vision for your platform. I really feel it's really important. If you do not have a vision for your platform, I think we get stuck a lot of time and we deprioritize some of the very important stuff. Not only prioritize a roadmap, but also your stakeholders. Concise, long-term, agile roadmaps. Being flexible is a key, but don't be too flexible. Clear and concise communication with the leadership. And I usually use block diagrams to explain my thoughts, because when you're working on the core backend, you have your APIs and you have your data management. Not everyone understands it. Just drawing blocks and showing how the data is flowing and why it makes sense to make it flow that way, it kind of helps everyone be on the same page. Yeah, I think that is it for me. And any questions?
They're trying to write tickets for like 50 engineers, right? They're super overwhelmed. So the question is like, where would you see kind of the relative responsibility and ownership between just on the product level, so like the PM for the specific product versus the PM from the platform team, both responsibility and accountability for like that platform functionality?
I'm just going to repeat the question so that I make sure that I understand it. You're saying that there are 2 different kinds of PM working on their own end products, but who owns the functionality piece of building it?
Yes, like sort of like how does it get infused? So like you could see multiple models. You could say like, okay, well, one model is it's on the specific product PM. Like let's say in my example, the CRM. You could say like that PM is responsible for being aware of the new platform stuff or any platform stuff, coordinating with that team and making sure like those requirements are well written into it. That's like one model. Another model is like you could say the platform team should almost provide like an internal concierge service to be aware of those like initiatives and work with that PM. Or there's like a hybrid version of that, but a lot of times I feel like those roles become ambiguous.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, someone's saying something.
Hybrid. We can talk later if you want.
Okay, hybrid.
I think that's
one vote for hybrid.
There you go. You have the answer, I guess. No, but I think my response would be a little different than that. I think that's where the vision comes in. Vision comes in as a very handy tool. If you really think that as a platform product, as a platform org, or as a platform team, it really makes sense to consume the data from individual product owners. There is a value in processing that data, massaging that data in a format that makes sense for the downstream consumers, can draw insights from it, can build products out of it. It makes sense to consume that data. Usually what happens is platform gets kind of in the middle of like, hey, you are a platform, take my data, give it to them. That's not the responsibility of a platform. You guys can talk to each other. You don't need a platform to communicate your data with each other. Platform comes in to the picture when, can I make more meaning out of that data? Can I add more inputs to that data that can draw more insights, better products for other people? If it's just data communication between two teams, I think they should handle it themselves. That's not what platforms are for, in my opinion. Yeah. Okay, let's go from here. How do you focus on both the end customer and the internal customer for situations where what you are building impacts both? That's a great question. I think it's all about the prioritization and at the end, the value impact that you're trying to bring. If there is a huge value impact for the internal project and has opportunities to open more gateways compared to building something right away for the end customer, that's something that you can prioritize. But again, depending on what phase your organization is, where you're trying to retain more users and you're trying to grow your organization, probably it will make sense to build something for the end customers right now versus building for the internal customers. But again, depending on where your organization is, I think that answer might change from my perspective. But again, prioritization exercise has to happen, like what value you're trying to bring and which value is higher at the end of the day. Was the back end not changing a problem? I assume you meant that the back end is a limiting factor and you therefore have to constantly prioritize runway work. Can someone explain that question a little bit? Back end not changing, whoever asked it.
Sorry, you mentioned that the back end not changing was, can you further clarify what you meant by that? Was that a problem that you were trying to solve, or?
Oh, yeah. So back end not changing, I mean, I was talking about the strategy. Like if you are building a platform, you're future-proofing your business. So that means like if you're building your data management strategy, that strategy will not change every day. If you're building your API strategy, that strategy will not change every day. If you're building APIs, you're going to support APIs for the time that your kind of platform exists. So that's what I meant by backend not changing every day.
Okay.
Sorry if it wasn't clear.
No, thank you.
Yeah. Can you please give example of upstream stakeholders? Is the runway architect an example? Can anyone explain what runway architect is?
It's me again.
Okay.
So, like you said that 40% of your roadmap was dictated by the architect, right? And you're building your platform out. You know, it is commonly referred to as when you build your platform out, you're building your architectural runway. That's what I'm talking
Okay.
about. So I wasn't sure what you meant by upstream stakeholder versus downstream. Downstream, I think I understand, is the customers of your platform and their customers. That's downstream. What's upstream? Is that the
Sure. So I'll take a logistics example over here. I don't know, any other industries at this point in time, but for example, we are trying to build a logistics platform where you need to. One example is print labels, and that label basically has a lot of manifest data, and that data basically comes from the upstream teams where the order is placed and where you create the purchase order. So all of that data gets translated for us into a manifested form, and that's what we use. If there are any changes in the process, we are dependent on the upstream teams to finish their work before we can start our work. So there is the upstream dependency that comes into the picture. That's what I was talking about, the upstream. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's do that one at the top, and then we'll call it after that.
Sure. Can you say more about the process of moving from monolith to microservice? So that is a very, very painful job. I hope you are never stuck with it and you never do it. That is actually a very broad answer. I don't know how to answer it in 30 seconds, but As organizations grow, they try to concentrate most of their data into like single architectural format. That's the monolith. And a lot of teams, multiple teams within the organization try to use that data for building their products, running their day-to-day operations. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the ID processes, but I guess most of you are. ID processes are mostly like traffic lights, right? When a request is sent in, it's more like you have a traffic lane, and it goes one by n, and that's the problem with monolith. It slows down the process. There is a lot of latency in the data. There's a lot of dependency on the data. If the data breaks, then everyone breaks. Moving from that dependency to more microservices, where you have a API strategy, for instance. Like, okay, if it's going to be XYZ data, I'm going to put it in this event topic and let the consumers consume from there directly. And then going from monolith to microservices is basically working with 100 different stakeholders that are dependent on that data and making them unhappy every single day until your transition is complete. So, but if someone wants to talk in detail about it, I'm more than happy to, but you should not be talking about this.
Thank you, Nikhil.
Thank you.
Give Nikhil a hand.